Coming to you from 6,224 feet in Castle Rock, Colorado.
This is Inside Castle Rock.
I'm Chris Tuchillo, hospitality trainer, leadership and presentation coach, and a local resident the past 2 years.
I'm Brian Cowdery, a professional real estate agent, and I've lived in town for over a decade.
Check out our latest episode as we welcome you inside Castle Rock. Welcome to Inside Castle Rock. We are so excited to be with you again today. As always, it's Brian Cowdery and Chris Tuchillo, and we are joined by our guests, Jonny Sharp and Ernest Smith. And more importantly than they're our friends, they also happen to be pastors at and some of the founders of Front Range Christian Church. And so we're excited to kind of dive into a conversation and learn a little bit more about them and the church.
Yes, so welcome, guys. I'm really excited to have you on this episode. I think we're episodes, what are we, 5? 6?
7.
Seven.
7 all day.
Yeah.
Way off.
7.
I'm the counter in the relationship. Brian does everything.
Yeah.
There you go.
6 to 7 episodes that we're on.
6.
Yeah. 6
Well,
to
don't
7.
forget the first one we did record twice.
Yeah, that's true.
Way more than 5.
Yeah, so that's 8.
Way more.
Technically 8.
Yeah.
You know what I found out about podcasts is that you get, once you get past 8, most podcasts don't go past 8.
I'm so excited.
They usually die after that. So we'll see how we do.
Okay.
See another one?
You probably should have had us at 7. This should have been like 10.
Well, what's funny is the reason why they die is that the people that start them get excited and they don't have enough either guests or topics.
Yeah.
And so before we recorded episode 1, we had 20 names of people that we thought and businesses that we thought would be interesting to connect with.
And we made the 20? No, we were number
Absolutely
22.
did.
Okay, got everybody else said no.
Yeah, there was a process of elimination. But I want to hear Johnny's feeling, especially when he's not on caffeine.
Sure.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about this particular episode is as Brian and I went through and talked about you come up with a list like any business or any group doing stuff with no plan. You come up with a list of things that you want things to be, but we also came up with a list of things we didn't want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was very important to us that this was real. It was us.
Mm-hmm.
And because not just our faith, but Front Range as a part of our lives, our family, our community is such an important part. We said it's really important to us that we do something with y'all in the first year because we want to make sure that everybody knows these are 2 guys talking about Castle Rock, but also guys that love Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of our lives and our families' lives. And so for me, there was even driving over here, I was like,
no question, honestly.
I was like, we're doing it. We're finally making sure everybody knows this isn't just talk. This is really about things that we care about.
Mm-hmm.
And who better to bring into that, especially because the Grace
100%.
Bible Church people were busy.
Yeah.
Who better to bring into it?
Plum Creek.
Plum Creek's
They're
too
like,
big.
Until you have
Exactly.
100,000
We don't have enough followers.
We're not doing
They're like, we're not doing this. So, hey, top 3, not bad.
Yes.
Not bad.
Top 3, we'll take it.
We'll take top 3 all day. Where we always like to start is a little bit about your stories, just a little bit about who you are, your life story, your backstory, and then we'll kind of get into the story of Front Range because that has a really cool trajectory as well. So since Jonny got microphone A,
Love it.
I think we'll go with Jonny. But
Big dog.
background.
Life story, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I was
Yes.
born.
In 32 seconds.
No, I grew up in a tiny little town in South Carolina called Georgetown. It's between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. I grew up a church kid, got into trouble, to sum it up, got into trouble in high school, getting into nonsense.
Specifically, could you tell us a couple of those?
Yes, a couple of the things. No,
Johnny used to have really long hair.
I did used to have long hair,
He
actually.
was
Yeah.
surfing all the time.
Yes, I was a surfer, a
Please send me a
skateboarder.
picture of that, and we're gonna pop.
He'll send you the picture with him with his shirt off.
Yeah, no, no, I will not.
I'll ask Janet for the picture.
Yeah, I know. And
We
so,
have
just got into nonsense in high school. And right around 9/11 was when I was going into, not right around, it was when I was going into sophomore year of high school. And I was depressed and drinking and all kinds of stuff. And 9/11 happened. I know it sounds a little strange, but 9/11 sort of woke me up a little bit to something's wrong. And I had already been feeling like something's kind of wrong with me, something's wrong with the world. And that started me on a journey of just why am I alive? What's the point of all this? And I ended up, like I said, I grew up a church kid. It was a traditional, I won't call it dead, but just kind of boring. Nothing really going on.
Turning the crank.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew Bible stories and all that, but it wasn't real. And so kind of after that, I found a youth group where there was a real band made up of kids my age, and they were decent.
Better
it
than
was
those fake bands.
better than the fake bands, yeah, the real band. And I remember going to this youth group. I went because I was chasing a girl who had broken up with me. It was a whole thing. So I showed up. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, she already
She
broke up
was-
with you
yeah,
and
she
you were
broke
still
up with
chasing
me.
her?
Yes, exactly. She broke up with me, and I heard that she was going to this other youth group. And I was like, yeah, maybe if I show up here, something will happen. Anyway,
Did you bring a boombox?
No, I didn't.
That would have just next level.
No. And
It
so
wasn't the 80s.
it was not in the 80s. No. So I show up, and the thing that I remember is just how excited the leaders were for me to be there, and genuinely. And I, had a good service, all that kind of stuff. Knew some friends that were there, but I remember leaving, and one of the youth leaders saying, "Thank you so much for coming. We're so glad that you were here," and she meant it. And then I kind of just kept going back and had a salvation experience of like, Jesus is real. I want to give my life to him. This is everything I've heard about for years. This is it. And then they kind of couldn't get rid of me. And so I just kind of kept showing up. I was a drummer at the time, and so I started playing with the band, and I started sharing my testimony a little bit, and kids were starting to respond. And we had kind of like this big, quote unquote, for the town that I was in, movement of like over 100 kids started coming to this tiny little church's youth group. All of my friends got saved, and so it was kind of the thing to do. And then at some point, the newness and the fun of it started to wear off for some of those kids, and so a lot of my friends that had come just kind of started dropping off and going back to the drinking and the partying. But it was never the same for me. Like I had met Jesus, and he was real, is real, and nothing was ever the same. Yeah. And so I just from then was like, what can I do? How can I serve? Showing up at church all the time, Sunday morning, Sunday night. Youth group was Thursday night. I went to other churches' youth groups. I just wanted as much of God as I could get.
That's cool.
And then from there, went to an internship, met Ernest, and started doing ministry as a job, and kind of ended up out here, which I guess we could probably get to that at some point, how we got out here. But yeah, that's kind of my story.
Wow, that's awesome.
I love that you said they couldn't get rid of you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you look at that now and you're kind of like, oh, I was that kid. But I mean, isn't that what churches want?
Yeah.
You're like, man, we saw the calories 3 times this week at church, or 4 times.
Yeah.
But you kind of want that vibe to be going on, because you want people, whether it's Jesus or just the community that you find in church, you want people to be like, man, I can't get enough of that.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of other things out in the world that people can be like, I can't get enough of that. We could list off all of the things.
Yep.
Totally.
That's one that I don't know if you really can get enough of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what a great problem to have that you created for that church.
It's so interesting because I was not drinking and doing those things in high school, but I grew up in a Nazarene church, but kind of the same thing. Like that was what I did. I didn't do sports. I didn't do anything else, clubs, like that, like youth group and being in the leadership there. That's all I did too. And it was very similar, but just what an impact, you know what I mean? That to be able to have that, especially for you, I think it's just so fascinating how you just made that transformation.
Yep.
You know,
it was amazing. It was like nothing will ever be the same for me. So yeah,
I love it. That's amazing.
Yep.
All right, there.
Your turn.
No, I have D.
Oh, there we go. So you don't get to talk.
I'm gonna do a quick little bit, because I love the fact that I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And I went through all the sacraments. And I remember going to church with Jen. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were saying, they're like, yeah, I went through this period of time where like I would just like go to church angry. And I was like, you still went though? And they're like, I did. And I said, man, I totally had that. Like Jen and I were living in Houston. We're newlyweds. We had decided to be Church of Christ because I grew up Catholic, holidays only sort of a deal. It was more probably Catholic by Italian heritage and tradition than I was religion. And but I started going with Jen, and I said, hey, look, your faith was a lot bigger to you than it was for me growing up. So why don't we just do Church of Christ thing? And she liked that. So we'd go to church, and we'd be driving over there, and I'd just be angry. It's like, I don't want to be there. I want to be home doing something that I want to do. And I started having these moments at this church in Kingwood, Texas, where I would be at church, I'd be angry, worship team, right, a cappella, we're singing.
Oh no, yeah.
I would be like moved. And I wouldn't say to the point of tears, but I could feel like my heart being changed. And then the last church we attended when we were up in Centennial, Littleton Church of Christ, had a really great a cappella worship team. But my gosh, I would weep sometimes during service. And that was the first place for me. And, we've been in Colorado now 13 years. That was the first place for me where I would show up to church a little frustrated and leave like overjoyed. And some sort of a moment happened where I just was like, why are you allowing yourself to go angry? You're always happy when you leave there. The experience of the worship team. 9 times out of 10, I liked the sermon. I liked the message. I liked the preaching style, the people, the community. That was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And what's been really fun is I laugh because I'll think to myself, the whole time I've been at Front Range, which isn't that long, right? I've been at Front Range for like 2.5 years. I've never gone to church angry
That is interesting.
or been like, I don't want to go. Because I know that if I go, I will be even happier than whatever I am leaving the house going and doing that.
Right.
And that to me is just like, it was annoying back then, but it's so great to look at it now and see the fundamental change that's happened in me as a human being. And I think it makes it real for our daughter as opposed to like mom and dad, like, why do we have to go to church? I get so much joy being like, oh no, we get to.
Yeah.
We absolutely get to. And I think Emma sees that we're not full of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll go through our struggles of belief, not belief with her, but I want her to do that. I want her to question it. Otherwise, it's our faith. It's not hers.
Yeah.
So that's the blur.
Right.
All right. I was Mike C, but you'll go next.
Well, I talked about my Nazarene. What's interesting about that is
No, we don't want to hear anymore.
okay.
All right, me?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was interesting is the Nazarene church, still great church. I mean, it's my foundation of faith. Like I don't have anything against them, but they were more legalistic. It's like you can't drink. If anything can lead to sin, you just don't do it. Which is pretty much everything. I feel like, but they had certain things like you don't play with old schools. You don't play with cards. You don't go to R-rated movies, or you don't do shopping on Sunday. Like really funny things. You don't dance. Like that was a big thing. There's no dancing or anything like that. And but I think what it did is it still did. They did a really good job of establishing like the foundations and Bible stories. Like so, like I know that really well. And then when I was like, okay, I don't think all that's like really totally biblically accurate. Reaching out, and then when I got into college, finding a church that was a little bit more focused on the essentials, just to be able to build on that. But I did everything in high school. Was like I said, was with that youth group, and I have a core group of friends that we can still just pick right back up where we left off. And like my best friend is still from that youth group, and it's just been really cool. We get together every so often. It's not as much as we used to, but we used to but I still see them at occasion on different events and stuff like that. Or some of them still live in the Springs. So it's down in the Springs. And it's just really, I think what's interesting is when you're in high school like that, you don't realize the things that are going to carry with you.
Yeah.
And that you're going to end up leaning on, that you have no idea as a dumb teenager, you're just like, okay, this is what we're doing.
You know it all and yet know nothing.
Yes, exactly. But now, like, there's still things. I still remember one specific sermon, at that church. I still remember specific things that God brings up when I'm going through something that it's like, oh yeah, totally. So it's just really an interesting thing. But yeah, we went from there into college, went up to Flatirons Community Church up there when it was in a really small spot. And but I've been to some Calvary churches and things like that too. And it's just been really cool to see, I don't know, just see how God has transformed, like, what really, like, I just go back to the essentials a lot, like what's really important, what really matters the most, and coming from like, a more legalistic background, I still struggle with that. So I have to like lean on like, okay, God's not mad at me because I did something, and I still struggle with that today. And, but then, after Susan and I got married, we been a part of a lot of churches, and we'll come to Front Range here eventually too. But eventually we got to Front Range, and Front Range was probably one of the first churches. We had some past church hurt, to be really honest. And I remember specifically, I sent Ernest an email just saying, kind of, here's our story, here's where we're at. We were on staff at a previous church, and your response was like phenomenal. It was like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Thank you for what you've done. I'm sure God is honored, and you've changed a lot of lives, which we didn't get from the other leadership, and it was just like, okay. And we stalked you on the internet for a long time. Yeah.
You watched a lot of messages.
Yes. We watched a bunch. We tried a bunch of churches, but I think for Front Range specifically, what I loved about it is this church was not one that's just about itself, or about the numbers, or about anything like that. And no church is ever perfect, but I think Front Range is the most like genuine place, I would say, that we've ever been to, that doesn't have another agenda behind it, And so coming here has been really cool to be a part of that. And, and then like you said, with our kids, they're actually struggling with a lot of things right now. And, but I feel like Front Range allows them to struggle with it. And of course we do too, and question things. And so their faith is really growing a ton.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it helps so much when you know that you can bring something that's heavy
Yeah.
and somebody's not like, oh my good man, that's really tough. Anyway, so like move on. No, like we're in a moment right here. Like,
Yeah.
even if you just need somebody to listen, like I always notice, and I noticed it yesterday probably because we brought a family member with us to church. I was like so proud about how much Front Range shifts attention elsewhere, like off of Front Range. Like, hey, Front Range, we partner with these organizations. Here's who they are.
Yeah.
You get to choose where that money goes. If you let us know that you're here visiting. Here's the organizations we support across the world. And y'all talk about that all the time.
Right.
The other thing I think that's really special about this church is that I've been to churches where other people preach other than the pulpit minister, whatever the vernaculars you want to use. But it's very few and far between. It's like, hey, the youth minister gets to preach like 4 times a year. Man, at Front Range, like I get really excited when I pop in and I'm like, oh, my buddy Johnny's preaching. Or Brandon's preaching. His style's totally different. Or no, Aaron's not preaching, but Mike's preaching. But like there's different folks up there bringing a message. You had your daughter up on stage to do before giving a message. I think Jackie's gone up with Brandon to do some things. That's so cool. That's the prototype of a church that my wife and I want our daughter to experience. But to your point, no church is perfect. This is the formula or the fit that just feels right.
Yeah.
And I think fit, it needs to feel right. And then the rest of it, you just figure out.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think it was in the sermon that you talked about yesterday where you were mentioning, and this is really interesting because normally we don't talk this much.
Yeah.
But we're just big fans.
This is really about us today.
It's about-
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for listening.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get to you at some point. Don't worry.
I'm D.
You should have taken your chance with
I'm microphone D.
But you mentioned about this idea that, churches or people, organizations will make mistakes and how everybody's like, but you did that and that hurt me. And I loved how you had no problem, Ernest, saying, you're like, what about all of the other things that we did to love on you and support you? And that's important to me, not only because I think it's actually true in life, not just in church, but also in the fact that early on in our friendship, I mentioned to Johnny, I said, I will never come up after a sermon and tell you that I liked your sermon without telling you something that I heard from it.
Yeah.
Because I had a good
And
buddy
that's
of mine.
been true. You have done that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But so many preachers I know,
right?
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But so many preachers I know were like, everybody comes up and says, hey, great job. Like, I really enjoyed your sermon. And if the preacher was honest and said, which part did you like the most? They'd be like, oh,
The first.
snap. No.
Yeah,
So when
the
I was
first
a
part.
kid, my dad would go up to the preacher and he would say, I liked your sermon. So I just do that.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to take this relationship
Yeah,
much
I
further.
wasn't actually listening.
Seriously, dude? I was checking the score, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's games going on right now.
Talking about Jesus.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. The answer's always Jesus.
Always.
Back to it.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, do we really want to hear about Ernest?
I don't know.
We could just
Johnny,
skip.
do you have
Are we
anything
gonna
else you want to add?
Keep going, Johnny.
I'd like to defer to Ernest.
Yeah, we definitely would.
We wanna hear the backstory.
Yeah,
Yep.
of course.
Yeah, so I love hearing your stories because it's everybody's story is so unique. And for me, I've only been in 2 churches my whole life. I didn't grow up going to church or anything like that. So my faith journey, I always tell people, like, I went back and forth between atheism and agnosticism. Like, didn't believe that God existed, and then if he did, it didn't matter, right? That type of thing. My dad was not the best dude. He was an alcoholic, abusive. So I just figured if God did exist, then like he doesn't care and it doesn't matter to my life because he's not showing up and like doing something about this situation. But then as I would look at the situation, I would go, then he can't exist, because if he was a good God, or loving God or whatever people try to say, then he would step in and like do something about that. And so, I started doing drugs and drinking in 8th grade, and that just got worse over time. And it was really just like to dull the pain in my life and all the stuff I was walking through. And then eventually a buddy of mine invited me to church, and I'm like, there's not a chance I'm coming to church. And he just kept inviting me. He probably invited me like 8 times before I finally said yes to play ultimate frisbee. I was like, I don't have to go to church, right? And he's like, no.
That felt safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, we're going to go to Wendy's afterwards, and then we're going to play ultimate frisbee. And I was like, I'm not even meeting you at Wendy's.
Round
It's too
frisbee,
close
square beat.
to church.
Love it.
So
Super.
I'll meet you. Yeah. I'll meet
What's the
you at
furthest fast food restaurant from the church?
Exactly. So I was like, all right, I'll meet you for ultimate frisbee, and got there, and we were playing, and I had stopped my buddy. I'm like, dude, where are all these hot girls from? And he's like, youth group. And I was like, what's youth group and what time is it at? So the next week I was at youth group.
So the force field went away.
Yes. I was like, I don't care. God burns the church down. There's girls there. Like, let's go. It's kind of like God using that girl for you. God will use anything to draw you to himself. I firmly believe that. And
that's so true.
And so I just started going, and people were super kind, super nice. Same thing that Jonny was talking about. I mean, people seemed to genuinely care that I was there. And then eventually I met this guy that he started sharing his story, and his story was very similar to mine. And he made a comment. He said, "If it wasn't for Jesus, I wouldn't be here today." And I just thought, that's an interesting comment. Like I'd never heard of that before. I grew up in the South my whole life and never really heard the name Jesus until around that moment.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In ninth grade, I had a a girl that I was seeing, and her mom was like, "Hey, are you a Christian?" And my answer was, "Yes, ma'am. I've lived in the South my whole life." I thought it was synonymous with Southern.
Just being there.
Yeah, I thought like if you're a Southerner, you're a Christian. I didn't know it meant anything about this guy named Jesus.
Interesting.
And no matter where you were in your life in the South, every question is answered with yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Oh,
That's just the way you speak.
100%. Still to this day, I'll have people here. They'll get upset. They're like, don't say yes, ma'am to me. And I'm like, you're younger than me. I'm not saying you're old.
Yeah.
Like it's just I got.
You never get that.
I literally got beat if I didn't say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. So yeah, that's deep entrenched. So yeah, man, I heard this guy's story, and I thought I've tried everything else. I might as well try Jesus. It wasn't like I had this earth shattering revelation that Christ was real or anything. It was like, tried the drugs, tried the alcohol, I tried to kill myself, I tried all these different things. So, I mean, if he says it works, then I mean, he could have said he could have said believing in Pinocchio worked. I'd be like, I'll try it. I mean, but obviously Christ radically transformed my life. And so immediately stopped drinking, stopped doing the drugs, went on a mission trip. Up until that point, I had a few people, like a buddy's mom, and then a guy at the church that like would randomly stop and just say, "Hey, man, I had a dream about you. You were preaching. You're going to be a pastor." And I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Why are you dreaming about me? Get out of here. What's up?
I literally told my buddy, I was like, "Dude, your mom's dreaming about me. That's weird." He's like, and so I go on this mission trip, and those comments come back to me, and I'm like, I mean, I don't even know, what does a pastor do?
Yeah,
like,
that'd be so confusing for you. This whole process, right? I can't even imagine.
I do nothing, but it was. I also think for me, it was beautiful because I had nothing else to. I didn't have anything to deconstruct. I didn't have anything to like compare it to. Like I had nothing, and so it was like I had to really explore hard and like find out if Jesus really was who he said he was. And then figure out what does it mean to be a pastor. The only thing I knew, like the church eventually hired me to clean the pastor's offices. So I would go empty trash cans, clean toilets, and I'm like just walking around like these guys play golf a lot. Like I think that's all they do. Like I never saw them I was also at night. So they weren't going to be in their office at night, but I had no clue. So I'm on this mission trip. It's in Panama. I'm there for 4 weeks, and so all this stuff's flooding back, and I'm like, well, Lord, I don't know. So the missionaries were like, hey, we need we need a few people to do a teaching on tithing. And I was like, can I take it? And can I take it by myself? No one up until that point had taken one by themselves. Everybody had done it as groups, some type of Bible study. And so they're like, yeah, sure, take it. And so I get back and I go to my buddy. I'm like, hey, what's tithing? Like, I had no clue. And he was like, well, it's found in these books. And so I opened my Bible. I'm like, my Bible didn't have those books. And he's like, what are you talking about? All I had was a New Testament. I didn't even know there was an Old Testament at this point. I'm like, can I borrow the real Bible?
It's incredible how like all these little discoveries.
Yeah, Hollywood Bible, they're like, sell them the New Testament. And
right.
we can sell them the other one. We can charge them almost the same amount of money.
Exactly.
I didn't even have the Bible that had New Testament and Proverbs and Psalms. Like I only had New Testament. It was an FCA Bible. That's all I had.
Listen, Catholic Bible, I had the Book of Wisdom. So back
That's right.
There you go.
You had
that extra books.
You had some
It's stuff in there that Jen's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What kind of wisdom are you talking
First
about?
Maccabees, second Maccabees. So I find out where tithing is discussed, and I give this message, and I I was up on this porch, and I remember running down. I jumped into my buddy's arms, and I said, "I'm gonna be a pastor," because I had prayed beforehand. I'm like, "Lord, let it go." Like, well, I hated public speaking. I hated talking to people. So I just said, Lord, let it go well. Let me just know and let people like actually receive it and do something with it. Like, let there be fruit produced. So that Sunday at church, I had talked about tithing, but these people live on an island. Like,
Sure.
they don't have money. They have mangoes and coconuts and things like that.
Right.
So people were walking in with like 2 coconuts, 3 mangoes, like, because I talked about if you get 30 mangoes, then give 3, that type of thing. And
Right.
they're laying it at the altar. And I'm like, okay,
Holy cow. You're like,
maybe
that
I'm
works.
supposed to do something with this.
Yeah.
So I changed my career path at that point, and
When you did
um,
that, do you feel like you were like you could just feel like this is like my purpose?
yeah, it
Like,
was
did you feel that in
something
that
totally
moment?
different. Like
Yeah.
I think for me, it was like the opportunity to help people.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
I had people that impacted me
Mm.
and that really cared deeply about me. Man, if I could do that for the rest, which is crazy because before accepting Christ, I've always been an extrovert, but I was very angry and I really didn't like people. I would get in fights a lot, and I just was an angry individual.
Yeah.
So now to be thinking about like how do I help people?
It's a total shift.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, it was like
180.
people are like, well, we can disagree about different theology and stuff like that, but people can't disagree about your story. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't want to just rely on your story. I think you need to have good theology too, but you can't disagree. I can't. No one can disagree with like the heart change, the true heart change that happened in my life.
Totally.
The fact that alcoholism was cut out immediately. The fact that
Yeah.
drugs. I mean, all these different things like
Unbelievable.
gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that's not because I knew some deep theology. It's not. I mean, I still struggled. I still was like,
Sure.
"Is this real?"
Yeah.
Like I'm changing, but I don't understand this. Like, it
Right.
didn't make sense at
Yeah.
all because it wasn't logic and it wasn't science, and that's what I built my life on.
Yeah.
So it was difficult.
Amazing.
This faith thing was really really hard.
Yeah.
So that went into ministry was at that same church that I accepted Christ at for 15 years on staff, and then we moved out here to start Front Range.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The context of an extrovert. Because I think people sometimes, and not that you did, but people will say to me like, "Oh, I'm an introvert or extrovert." I'm like, you can still be really great at public speaking,
Yep.
talking to groups in business, whatever, but you get your energy from different
Yes.
places.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard somebody say that they're an extrovert who hated people because it's literally being like, where I get my energy from.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, I just wanted to get my energy from fighting as many people as possible.
That's great.
As long as I'm around them
Yep.
and I got more people I can beat on, like I'm getting my. Exactly, right? Come over here.
Yeah.
But that's
What's your name?
Let's
Let's go.
I'm tired. Get over here.
Because I've worked with some great leaders in my career, and it was, one of them that I'm still pretty close with. I knew if I needed to ask for something, he was an introvert, and I'd go in and I'd ask for it on a Monday or Tuesday because by Friday he was depleted.
Yeah.
He had to like go home and like sit facing the corner for an hour and then be like, okay, honey, I'm ready to be a part of the family and address the kids. But he was still really good at what he did.
Yeah.
Whereas me, like as I would go through my week, I'm like the tanks are getting more filled, and I always joke and I say I can't come back from conferences with buckets of energy,
Yeah.
like leftovers, which is also delicious. But it's so funny. I've never heard someone describe it as an extrovert who hated being around
Yeah.
people.
It just shows you where I was at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pain I was at.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
the only time I've told this story here at our church, the only time I ever remember praying a prayer before I accepted Christ, I mean, I was in a dark spot, and I'd ran away from home. I'd been kicked out of my home. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I took a bunch of pills one night. I was like, there's no point of being
Sure.
here.
Mhm.
Took a bunch of pills, and right before I took them, I just said, God, if you're real, you'll take me tonight. And I woke up the next morning, and I was so angry because I'm like, the one prayer, you can't be real because the only prayer I prayed in my life, you can't answer.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's how deep I was. That's why I could be an extrovert and I get my energy around people, and yet I hated them.
At what point did you realize that what God was saying when you said that in the morning was like, he did answer your prayer? Right? Because it's the whole thing of like, oh God, give me patience. Well, right, there's no magic wand.
Right.
He's going to give you situations in which to have patience, whatever the thing is you prayed for.
Yep.
And you prayed a very specific prayer,
Yep.
and he absolutely answered it, or we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yep.
And I mean, but at that moment, you must have been so frustrated.
I was.
You're like, I did everything I thought I was supposed to do to make sure I could you don't care about me. You've proven that.
Yep.
But man, he does.
When you fail
It's
at
wild.
killing yourself, Like, you're like, what else do I have?
What do I have?
I have nothing else.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, like, I probably wanted to fail. I mean, I didn't want to.
Sure.
It's like it's just wrestling. It's this
Yeah.
hard place that you're in.
Yeah.
If you wrestle with that, like you don't see another end, and yet you also don't want it as well. Like
Yeah.
it's so
100%.
yeah. It took. I mean, so 9 months later is when I accepted Christ.
Mm.
So it was another 9 months of challenging stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One of the things I know we've talked a lot just personally too about like a lot of things that you went through during that time, and you're telling me all kinds of stories. I'm like, how are you? I literally thought like, how are you still alive? One, how are you even a Christian or a believer? After going through all that. But I think but now all that stuff like comes into what you're doing now, right? And like God's using all of that. So that when somebody is in that deep dark place, right, then they're like, I'm going to take a bottle of pills, and like nobody can relate to them better than you can from that perspective. Even for you, Johnny, and what you do. Like it's so interesting to me how God will take those things that were the worst moments of your life, and now you're here, and that's now what's going to save somebody else. So
And
that's
I would say that that's true for every follower of Jesus, not
Yes.
just pastors. I want to make
Oh,
that clear.
100%.
Like
Yeah.
every
Oh my
person, every story matters. Whether
Yeah.
it's I was on drugs or I was the perfect church kid all my life, doesn't matter. There's
totally
God is doing stuff in all of it, and your best testimony and the best thing God can do with you is using your story.
Yeah.
So
And
Your best testimony is yours.
is your story. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't try to be or
100%.
fake something else. I mean, you're true to who
Yeah.
you are, even if it's like I had to be goody two shoes.
Yeah.
Because some people will tell accounts of how that was so difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
Feeling that they lived in this like glass house, and that mom and dad were like, "Don't shatter the world's perception of us," and that world might just be our congregation, our town, whatever it is. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
it creates a lot of the construct of what people become as adults.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's a lot
Like,
to unpack in that.
I don't want my daughter or my son to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, your testimony is blah blah blah," and I'm like, I would actually rather have the testimony like I didn't do any of these things, and I followed God from 5 years old.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my whole life I followed Jesus. Like I would love this.
Not a brag.
How much further would I be in my understanding and
Yeah.
my memorization of Scripture? I mean, all the different things. Like how much further would I be? And yes, God very graciously uses all the junk that we went through to help others, because there's other people right now that are dealing with all of those things, heavy stuff, wrestling with all of that junk, and there's people that are feel like they're perfect, they've done the perfect life, and yet they're hurting,
And they're so disappointed with whatever's going on in
Exactly.
their life, and they're like,
exactly.
like I did everything I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And why am I now struggling with this?
Yep.
Yeah. Which is probably where I can come in, on that side of things
exactly.
too. Of like, I really have. I feel like I've been a Christian since I was born. I don't know anything different. I've probably been saved like 8 times. I say, like who wants to, who wants to accept Jesus? I'll do it again.
Just got to make sure.
I see your hand every Sunday. By Brian again.
Brian, yeah, we know.
I got you, Brian.
But that was actually part of our legalistic thing. So that now I get to carry it now, because at least I was taught you could lose your salvation, and that I literally still struggle with that. But the same thing, like there's so many things like that you get all sides of everybody's story that now we can take. And I think the tragic part is when somebody's not real and doesn't share that story.
Yeah.
Because there's so much good that God can do out of that for you and for that whoever he needs to help in that moment, And so I think one thing I really appreciate, and then we're going to get into the story of Front Range because there's so much there we want to unpack. But I think we have this fear of sharing too much, and if we hold that back, we're limiting in what God can do. And I think that's something I really appreciate about every person on staff here at Front Range. But not only that, you've instilled that in others. So when we've come to like, the men's breakfasts or the retreats or things like that, or, I mean, Chris and I met, not even at Front Range, which is funny. We met outside.
There you go.
Thanks.
This, by the way,
I
is
don't know
a
what
challenge.
that is.
Is a challenge coin.
Oh.
It was from the last men's retreat.
Oh, I didn't.
And
go to that one.
there's two
Yeah.
I've got an extra one. I'll give you the
Okay,
house.
perfect.
Because
good perception,
Johnny
right?
and the church and Dan are
Yeah.
very generous.
Yeah.
But there's 2 coins that I typically carry with me, challenge coins, and I either carry the one from the whatever the last Front Range retreat that I was at in. Although the first one, I think Dan knows this, but they had the rubbery stuff on it. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Always sticks in your
It gets
pocket.
stuck,
Anyway,
yes.
we'll move on.
Yeah.
Dan's a big guy. He's got a big heart. But the other one is this, which my wife made, which are these like glass hearts.
Yeah.
And these are always in my pocket when I travel. And so I'll show them and I'll talk to groups and I'll mention these. And right, some groups aren't ready to have me talk about the fact that I even know Jesus, let alone talk about him.
Sure.
But what I love about it is I say the point of these things is to remind me that no matter where I am, because I travel a lot by myself, I'm never alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this beautiful family and I have this beautiful community
Yeah.
that's literally like got my back everywhere that I go. And it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
It was hard for me not to put all 3 of the challenge coins in the last 3 years because I'm so dadgum proud of
Like
it.
a shade.
I know, right? I'm like, was it, who's the guy that had the clock?
Oh,
Flava
Flava
Flav.
Flav.
I'm like Flava Flav, but like Jesus Flav, something like that. I'm going to hell. Anyway.
Yeah, that might put you there.
A bunch of dads sitting here.
Does so many things like that to help
Yeah.
remind you of that.
Yeah.
And Ernest said something a moment ago. You said, where would I be in my journey if I'd been like, 5 years old, accepted Christ and marching along? And it reminded me of when I was doing work with the youth group up at our last church. And I started volunteering. And the first thing I ever did was I went on a 1-week backpacking trip. Didn't know any of the kids. It was probably one of the weirdest. Just jumped in head first. It was great.
That's scary.
Learned a lot, and then started meeting with the guys. Jen would meet with the gals in our basement. I'd meet with the guys upstairs every Tuesday. And I looked at the youth minister, my buddy Tyler, and I was like, "Hey man, like, I just don't know how much more I can offer these kids. Like, they know more scripture than I do." And he goes, "Buddy, they do not come to your house on Tuesday because you know scripture.
Yeah.
They come to your house on Tuesday because you do not look or sound like their mom or dad.
Yeah.
That is the reason they are here.
Yeah.
And if they can teach you some scripture and you even talk about scripture, great." He's like, but otherwise, it's the real conversations that real people are having.
100%. Yeah.
And I would lean into the fact that these kids would question their faith, and I'd say, "Good." And they're like, "Pretty sure the leader's supposed to tell."
Yeah, he's supposed to say,
"No, man, you're gonna go off to college, and if all your faith is mom and dad's, like it's done."
Yeah.
And I could show you cases where that's there.
and the data proves that nationwide.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the kids that figured it out for themselves. And they were the hardest ones to like be in community with. But man, their faith now is just a part of them. Like it's interwoven into their DNA. The other ones where mom and dad were whacking them over the head with like a skillet of faith. They just like walked away.
Yep.
They're still friends of mine, but that context of our shared belief isn't there.
Yeah.
It hurts. But I also love on them because I don't know, maybe they'll find Jesus again at 80.
That's
I
right.
don't know how I'll be. But anyway, all that being said, like you never know where it's going to be in their story.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you didn't find it till you did, because it made the story what it is. Otherwise, it would be different, and it probably wouldn't touch the same lives. And it's such an.
I don't know if I'd be sitting here because my passion to reach lost people and spiritually disconnected people is because of my story. So I don't. I mean, would I've wanted to start a church? Would I've wanted to move across the country? Like, I don't know if any of that would exist if I didn't go through my own. And same thing with Johnny. Same thing with each one of the team members here. Like, God uses your story to put you where He wants you to be.
That's right.
Which is the best jumping off point that we could have to. Why planning a church? Why Front Range? Why Castle Rock?
Yes. I'd love to hear that transition
that's-
from being in South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Coming to here, we just want to hear that whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I was at that church called Seacoast, 15 years, 15 and a half years on staff. So I was there maybe 17, something like that. And I did pretty much everything. I started off like doing facilities, like I said, and then it was high school ministry, and then it was all of student ministry, then it was student ministry and college ministry, then family. It was like everything but women's ministry for obvious reasons. I oversaw it.
I mean,
the church grew from like 500 people, 600 people, something like that, to Christmas and Easter. They were having 25,000 when we left.
What? 25 what?
Yeah,
Did
exactly.
you put an extra zero in there? Are you serious?
Very large.
Holy moly.
They were counting people who walked by the church.
Yeah.
12 people on the beach.
Everybody that drove by.
Somebody yelled out to praise Jesus Christ. And I just thought they were praying. They're actually yelling at a kid.
That's another one.
Exactly.
That's another one.
What, 12 campuses?
14 at that
14
point.
at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
14
I knew it was
campuses.
big. I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah. So toward the end, I'm the campus pastor of the original campus, which is about 5,000 people. overseeing birth through college. I'm on the executive team, one of the teaching pastors, so I'm doing a lot. Um, but it was like there was still something missing. And
Like, I need to be in charge of everything.
yeah, well, maybe,
When moving ministry.
yeah, maybe that's what was missing. I could have just done that. I could have stayed.
Meanwhile, Sarah's like,
No,
she's
no,
shaking her head.
yeah. So Seacoast just started saying, okay, we're gonna give every pastor who's been here at least 7 years what's called a sabbatical. So it's a time of rest. As a pastor, you're obviously you're managing a lot, like in a business, but you're caring for a lot,
Yeah.
right? So it's like these two weird sides of things where it is a business, and so you do a lot of things like a business,
Yeah.
and you're caring for like really deep stuff of people, and it can get really heavy. So churches, that church said, "Hey, we're going to give a sabbatical." So it was my time. At that point, I'd already been there forever, but they were
You're like, I
kind
got
of
2 sabbaticals.
yeah. I was like, "So do I get 2 months?" So it was a month off, and they said the only stipulation is you can't come back and say you're leaving. And I'm like, why would I ever leave? I was born in Charleston. My in-laws lived literally down the street from us, which might be a reason to leave, but they're awesome. All of our families, like everybody is there.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
we had free babysitting.
Right.
I've been a part of this church forever. My life had radically changed. I was able to lead at a substantial level. Like there's no reason. We were 7 minutes from the beach. My wife loves the beach. She loves the humidity, which is disgusting. There's like, why leave?
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
so I'm like, we're not leaving.
Yeah.
So during that sabbatical, I went up into the mountains for 3 days. I took these large post-it notes that you like stick on a wall,
Yeah.
When you look throughout scripture, God speaks through burning bushes and talking donkeys every once in a while, but it's rare.
Yeah.
The number one way God speaks is through wisdom. And so I thought, okay, let me get logic going here. So I put 3 post-it notes on the wall. I wrote down church planting. I wrote down full-time missions. That would have been in Kenya. And I wrote down staying at Seacoast. So these were the 3 things. I was like, if I could do anything, these would be the 3 things. I only wrote down church planting because I'd been told so many times you need to go plant a church.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, I had to deal with parents.
Once you stopped hating people,
Yes,
you go plant a church.
yes. I had to deal with parents as a youth pastor. I didn't want to deal with parents full time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a lead pastor to deal with adults all the time. Like adults are way more opinionated than like a 14-year-old.
That's right.
So go up into this mountain house, and I put these 3 things up, and I write all the reasons to do them and all the reasons not to do them. So all the reasons to plant a church, all the reasons not to, all the reasons to stay at Seacoast, all the reasons not to. Mission, same thing. And then so I stepped back, and all the reasons to plant a church and to do full-time missions were biblical reasons. Like it was like stretching your faith, showing your kids how to live by faith, reaching people, all these different things. The reasons to stay at Seacoast were all pretty much all selfish.
Selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like it's comfort.
Right.
There's,
Easy.
I'll never get fired. I was like you're like, oh, you want to reach somebody who's far from God and then bring them to Christ, and then like let's see their lives change, and maybe they can be called into ministry.
Poster child.
I was that kid.
Yeah.
And they used me a lot for
Sure.
that kind of stuff. So
They invested a lot in you.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
there's no way
yes.
Yeah.
And I got a lot. One of the largest churches in America at that time, they had these weird lists out there. And at that time, I think we were like number 2 most influential church in America. Like it was a great place to be.
Yeah.
We got to cut our teeth in ministry at one of the best.
Yeah.
But it was still all the reasons were selfish.
Yeah.
So then I looked at all the reasons why not to do those things, and all the reasons not to church plant or do missions were fears. And all the reasons not to stay at Seacoast, I don't even remember that part. But the fears, I'm like, so I'm stepping back. I'm like,
I think you already listed those out.
Yeah.
Previously.
pretty much. Reasons to do this, it's like, okay, these are biblical reasons. And the reasons not to church plant are fears. I have a boy at this time. We're pregnant with Waverly, and Sarah's pregnant with Waverly. And I just go, God doesn't call us to live by fear. I don't want my kids to be living by fear.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if all the reasons are biblical and all the reasons not are fears, maybe we're supposed to. So I come back from that trip. It was just me for those 3 days. I come back and I tell Sarah, and she's like, "Yeah, I knew that." And I'm like, "You could have told me."
Dude, I had to go to the mountains.
Exactly. I didn't have to be away from me for 3 days and write all these notes on the walls. Like, you could have just told me. Now the question is where. So we knew it was going to be planting, but now where?
And you had to go back to your leadership and be like,
So
That comes in a moment.
That
That comes in a
thing
moment.
not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything
I
after
bet.
that point.
I bet.
So we started praying and fasting a lot. That was like May. And then fast forward to January of that next year, I'm taking my very first doctorate class. I've got this guy, my professor is a guy named Elmer Towns. Super old dude, written like 4 bazillion books. He's been around the church for a long time. He helped start the university that I was attending. And he loved large churches, like loved them. So he didn't know my name. He just knew I was from Seacoast.
Okay.
So in the middle of class, he goes, "Hey, Seacoast." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, "I just want to be obedient to God. I'll do whatever He calls me to do." And then it's crazy thing. He says, "I think you need to quit your job, move to Denver, and plant a church."
What?
And I was like, "What the?"
Be quiet, old man.
Yeah.
You like regress to teenagers. Like, I don't know what that means.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Here's the honest truth. I didn't have any conversations with him. He didn't know I was wrestling with church
That's
planting.
insane.
He didn't know any of this stuff.
Wow.
So I text my buddy Wes, and I'm like, I think it's Denver. Because at that point, I really wanted to go to Boston.
Okay.
Like, that was where I was kind of hoping to go. And so, like, oh man, my wife and I, we had sat down a couple months earlier, and we just said, "Hey, if we could live anywhere, where would we live? You can plant a church anywhere. You can plant a church in New Zealand, praise God. You can plant a church here. You can plant anywhere.
Middle of Iowa?
Yeah. Most places. But I believe that to love the people of your city, you have to love your city. So, like, if you're angry at like the traffic, and you're angry at the growth, and you're angry at all these different things, then it's gonna come out toward people, right?
Yeah.
So we just said, okay, what kind of city do we want to live in? So we wrote down 5 values that we wanted. So Sarah went first, I went, Sarah went, I went. She didn't have another one, so I went again. And then we had 5. And then we just looked across America and we said, what cities match those values? Only 5 cities did. We put Denver at the top of the list, and I understand we're in Castle Rock. I'll clear that up in a second. Denver-ish, Denver Metro. We put Denver at the top of the list because I've been a Broncos fan since I was 8.
Nice.
So super spiritual reason.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
You're fine.
They
Broncos-
need your prayers.
Yeah, exactly.
I think God's starting to answer them again. Which is crazy because on the East Coast, like, you never watch Broncos games.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. They were never on.
No.
When I was 11, all I wanted was a Rocky starter jacket for Christmas. Like, a weird love for this
so
place.
funny.
I had never been here. I came when I was
Because
like
it's
20.
the Cowboys who were excited about, like, the Western culture.
Yeah. When I was like 21, I came out here to the Springs, and I drove up to Denver. That's it. That's the only experience I had.
Yeah.
So I told Sarah. So we put, or as we're listing these cities, we put Denver number 1. We put Miami number 2, because one of our core values had to be a church that was 85%. A city where 85% or more of the people were spiritually disconnected. They were not involved in church. They were not following Jesus. Miami was number 1 at that time. It was 97%.
Okay. No way.
Yeah, crazy. So we went to Miami first and loved it. Like, it was awesome. I mean, my wife could still have humidity. You could jump on a cruise ship.
There's a
just
beach.
walking
Lots of beaches.
Lots of beaches.
I was convinced it was Miami.
Yeah.
I
He was.
believed deep in my
Yes.
soul it was going to be Miami.
Yes. A part of
That's
the story that I don't ever share, and not for it just adds more time.
Yeah.
Is I was running. I was out on a jog one morning, and it's raining, and I'm just praying like, "Lord, is this it?" And I clearly heard the Lord say, "This is not it."
Wow.
And I was like, but I didn't tell Sarah that, like, because I didn't want to influence anything.
Like, you wanted.
I needed us to
from both.
be it together,
That makes
right?
sense.
Like, I never wanted Sarah to feel like she was dragged somewhere.
Yes. Right.
Like, oh, we have to do this or whatever. Like,
Sure.
and so, and I believe that's how the Lord wants it too. Like, the Lord wants both of you to be like, I love this.
Yeah.
I love these people. So we went to Miami. We loved it in many ways, and honestly, we probably would have chosen it
Mhm.
if, one, I heard the Lord say that, and then two, we didn't already have tickets
Mm.
to fly out here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'd already purchased the tickets. We came out here in December. I wanted it to be really,
Yep.
you know, I'm like,
As
See, the
miserable as
worst.
possible.
The worst.
yes,
Worst.
make it as cold as possible. It was the first weekend of December, and it was 55 degrees.
Yeah.
And
That
I'm like,
happens.
wait a second,
Dang it.
Lord, I needed it cold so Sarah can experience this. Um, and when we were out here, we were just out here for a few days, and 3 pastors said, "Hey, if you come here, you can preach on our congregation, take as many people as you want." One guy said, "I just raised 75,000 for a church plant. We'll give that to your church if you come here." My pastor would say, "Never walk somewhere and ask God to bless you, but find out what God's blessing and see if He'll let you join."
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And we were like, we kind of felt like God's blessing this place
Mm.
for some reason. Miami was awesome, but what we noticed in Miami, it was there were just different challenges,
Mm.
different things. And then we came here and like we went up to Loveland, ski, and we're like watching like dads teach their kids how to ski and just different things like that. And I just noticed there were
They
different
don't do that
values
in
here.
Miami very often.
No, there's not a
Yeah.
lot.
No, yeah,
Not
skis.
a lot of that. I mean, water's
Honestly,
um,
yeah.
We're
We're laughing at their kids.
Yes,
trying to
yes,
ski,
yes.
Yeah.
So there's just different values that
Yeah.
we appreciated here. The first night, Sarah's crying, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to be here." Um, and then the next night, Georgia lost the SEC championship. So I'm
So
like,
you're
"Well,
good.
you clearly are not blessing this place for some reason on our behalf." And um, by Monday, Sarah was like, "This is it,"
Mm.
and I was like, "Well, let's go home.
Mm.
Let's fast for a week and pray and just see what God wants." And by Wednesday, I turned to her and I was like, "What do you think?" She's like, "It's Denver. Like, we know."
There's no question.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Then let's go eat. We don't need to fast. Let's go eat."
He's like,
Why are we
Yes,
doing
yes,
this?
yes. Yeah, there's no reason to do this at this point. So then I went and told leadership. They already knew that we were praying and processing.
Mm.
And my pastor actually came from here. So he grew up in
Oh.
Littleton.
Oh, nice.
So I thought he'd be like, "That's awesome."
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought he would like be super excited. Or it was
Yeah,
Lakewood. Lakewood?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So,
Yeah,
that, whatever. Whatever.
I don't know any of the boundary lines. Whatever.
Johnny, they make
Besides Castle Rock.
it's
Yes.
not really
Yes,
clear.
it's true, especially up there.
clear as mud.
And so I thought he'd be super supportive, but
Uh-huh.
in that conversation, he said, "Ernest, let me give you another suggestion." And I was like, "Okay." And up until this point, Seacoast had a an unwritten rule that you couldn't plant within a certain radius
Oh,
of
gotcha.
the church. And so, we had a thriving downtown ministry at this point, like a ton of college students coming. And I'd been at the church for a long time. So a lot of people, if we had planted nearby, we would have started with a lot of people and a lot of, funds and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And he said, "Why don't you stay and plant downtown, downtown Charleston?" And super honoring. I was like, "Man, thank you so much." But sometimes an opportunity is really just temptation disguised as an opportunity. And I felt very clearly in that conversation the Lord say, "This is just temptation."
Mm.
So we said, "Thank you so much, appreciate it." We packed up our bags 7 months later and moved out here, started the church, and we love it. I feel like I feel like this is my people.
Yeah.
Like the majority of people here um, don't really have a spiritual foundation. They don't have a faith foundation.
Mhm.
So
Or even if they do a little bit shallow. Or
Yeah.
like
yeah,
this guy
or it
is,
was
or-
20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I mean, something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't have one growing up.
Mhm.
Like, I was just trying to be a decent human
Mhm.
at some level, what I thought was a decent human,
Yeah.
and just do my own thing.
Yeah.
Be very focused on what I want and what I can achieve.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'm home. The South is not that way. The South is very much like, not everybody now, but a lot of people have, a pretty significant faith story at some
It's
level.
like really ingrained.
It's really ingrained. You always go to church with your grandmama. You always go, it's that type of thing. Like we went to church, I think twice at Easter time. And it was because it was on top of Stone Mountain when we lived in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm like, it's like 5 in the morning. I'm like, why are we
What are we
freaking
doing?
climbing up Stone Mountain? to get to this. But then
God
when we got
really
up there, it
wants
was
to do
super
this?
cool. I saw a cross. I'm like, I don't know what the cross represents, but it's
Yeah.
really cool with the sun coming up. Like
Right.
that, you just did that in the South.
Yeah.
Here, it's like if there's not anything else better to do, then maybe I'll go.
Anything.
Yeah.
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 Well, I think what's interesting too is I mean, I've grown up in Colorado my whole life. Grew up in the Springs. That's the Bible Belt of Colorado,
Sure,
right?
Yes.
You know, and then, but I think very similar to what you said earlier, like as doing the Catholic faith, that's just, you were just that by culture, right? And just by like, this is my heritage. I think there's a lot of people like that around here, not to their fault. They don't
Oh,
know any
yeah,
different, and, you know, and it's not bad or anything like that,
Yep.
but you think you're, you know, doing the right, I fall into the same trap, you know, you think you're doing the right thing. And, but you realize there's so much more to it later. And I totally agree. That makes a ton of sense.
And the beauty is for us, at least my family, Sarah, that's how she grew up. She grew up Catholic.
Oh,
So like,
great.
so she gets that side.
I liked her for a
you
reason.
know?
There.
Yeah. So she gets that side of it. So like so I get the, you know, the no faith background, you know,
Yeah.
very, very, very little. And Sarah gets the, you know,
Very,
you go through all the things through confirmation and all that stuff. So it allows us to like be able to talk to anybody. you know,
totally,
really. And,
100%.
you know,
Yeah.
just whatever's going on.
That's
You
amazing.
have a shared approach now, but your perspective of how you got there is from two different walks.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes it really unique, and it allows you, I think, right. I think most people in ministry, they're ministry couples.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've gotten to know you and Jana very well. That's certainly the case. I don't know Sarah that well.
Yeah.
Although I was having lunch at the airport one time with my mom, and I walked up and we walked past, and then realized,
Sarah was there?
no, Ernest and Sarah were
Oh.
both there. And he was like, hey. And I was like, hey. And the waitress goes, oh, do you want to sit by your friend? And Ernest goes, no, he doesn't. Okay. And he goes, I'm kidding. You can sit right next to him. And it was great. And I was like, I'm going to talk to Sarah. She seems more welcoming. And I think that makes for a more, for lack of a better word, it makes for a more like diverse package as a ministry couple, because it's not like the two of you have the exact same story, exact same perspective. If you do, that would be cool. And also it would limit who you could connect with.
Yeah.
What I really want to know, why did you go?
Me.
I was just going to say that. Jonny, we need to hear
And
it.
obviously you were not just you.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've never heard
So
you say it.
I had come to Seacoast as an intern, spent a year there doing that. Felt clearly that God told me to stay at Seacoast when the internship was ending. And so I just started hanging out and eventually got a job working for Ernest, doing administrative assistant stuff, calendar, emails, all that kind of stuff. And then as he was growing up through the ranks and taking over stuff, I was just kind of helping. And we were doing college ministry, like you said, downtown. And by the end, we had moved into this like tiny little black box theater, and we were doing stupid service times. It was like Monday nights. We did like an 8:08 p.m. and a 9:39, 9:19, 9:39, something stupid. We were just doing crazy
My
stuff.
goodness.
And then at one point, then we had a third. I mean, we were there till midnight.
We were there till
Something.
midnight either
was
way.
crazy.
And so we were stuck in all these.
Raging.
Yeah.
There's no way you get burned out by that. Right?
No.
Oh.
Well, that's the thing though, and that's kind of part of the story is that
Yeah.
we were having so much fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were stuffing all these college kids in this theater, worshiping our hearts out.
I'm
growing-
preaching, and literally
Kids
just
sitting at
sitting
your
right
feet.
here.
Yeah, because like there's these stands, but then we just had so many kids
just
coming in, and we
packed.
just stuffing them in there.
Dang.
And
One of the
so,
guys
You
with
two
us-
concert. He's Bono.
yeah.
Famous presence.
One of the guys with us, as he's famous now, but his name is Brandon Lake.
Sure, yeah,
and he's,
yeah. Leading
you
worship
know,
at the time. Yeah. And
he's
so,
trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out. Like,
and so I as a 24-year-old, whatever it was, I was having the time of my life.
That makes
And I was seeing God move in the way I had dreamed about. Like when I got saved at 15, the experience that I had, I was now getting to help produce for these college kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we had a joke, these other guys, about Ernest of like, he's going to plant a church, and when he does, let's just go. And so we had told him that, a couple times, like, hey, when you finally figure it out, let us know.
We'll just keep.
Yeah. And
Hang
so,
up
no pressure.
You knew stuff. They knew stuff. You were like, how do you guys know?
I am totally in the dark here. I'm stubborn.
so when he was going through that process and finally came to it, I had already decided, like, when he goes, I'm going, because it was the fun that we were getting to have, the fruit that we were seeing, the relationships that I, and these other guys and couples had built with one another. I was doing the thing I always wanted to do with my best friends. And so it was like, hey, do you want to go do this somewhere else? Yeah, sure. Why not? And so I did tell my wife, it was about couple months before I proposed, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, Ernest is probably going to,
over there.
yeah, I was like, Ernest is probably going to plant a church and I'm going to go with it. And so, and you know, we knew we were going to get married. And so it was just kind of one of those, like, we just both need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So she was like, sounds great. Yeah, absolutely.
Married as opposed to like,
yes.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we got married, and it was a year later that we had moved out here. And so I just needed to prep her of like, I didn't need to pray about it really. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, it was like, why would I not do this?
You know.
And the options were like stay at Seacoast and maybe take over that college ministry. I don't know. But then all of my friends were leaving.
Yeah.
And so just all of us collectively were like, man, let's go do this. Let's go have fun. Let's do something crazy.
Yeah.
It's similar to like, you know, stepping out in faith was just like, this sounds fun. Why not? Let's go for it. And so I did. Yeah.
Amazing. Who else was included in those like friends?
Steve Cloder, Wes Stickway, Neil Lamb. We had 30 something people, because we had the benefit of, you know, when you stand in front of 150, 200 college kids, some of them about to graduate, you say, who wants to move to Denver?
Denver.
Sure. Yeah. You know, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who's going to actually do it?
Yeah. Yes. And that was the hard part. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
there was probably 20, 30 people that ended up moving out here.
We
And
ended up
some of
having
them,
64 people move out.
yeah.
Yeah, total.
Yeah.
But over like
For
3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so it just
I don't
was
think I
like,
even do that.
why would we not do this?
It was like,
So-
I thought it was like 10, like
Yeah.
5 couples.
I didn't
No.
know, honestly.
So we had a
Or was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, but there's still a ripple effect of
Yes.
that should not be forgotten.
Yeah.
Because that's
we had
an
a
important
community
part of
group.
influence.
The only couple that didn't come from that community group was Brandon and Brittany Lake.
Yeah.
They were the only ones. It was because, I mean, and this is like a testimony of these guys and their faith and their passion for Jesus and reaching people. I couldn't promise anybody I didn't even know if I would have a salary. Like Seacoast was like, we'll pay you until the church starts.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got 6 months, you know, like, so I don't know how this is going to be. So like with Brandon, I couldn't promise him anything. I'm like, you're going to have to work a guitar center, you know, with John.
I worked at Office Depot. I'm sorry to anyone that I ever met at Office Depot.
But you know,
Those
paper
first
better
couple
than
of years.
But like, I mean, think about that. Like this guy, he's at one of the most influential churches in America, right? He's on staff. His trajectory is, I mean, you know, churches are interesting because they don't always see not all churches see the people that they have, the leadership that they have. So maybe Seacoast would have seen something, maybe they wouldn't have seen something in Johnny, but he at least had security.
Yeah.
He at least had a great
I was
church.
getting a paycheck to do what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he moves out here going, we don't know.
I don't know
We don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Jana, I don't know. You know, I mean, she had
Right.
she could do her job remotely at that point, but I mean, it was the faith that these guys, I mean, Neil went and worked at a Starbucks. Wes, you know, I got Wes a job doing medical sales. You know, Steve was doing.
He had a lot of jobs. He was a
personal
physical trainer,
Yeah.
auto mechanic, engineer,
All
a
kinds
lot
of
of
stuff.
things. Yeah.
And, you know, that's just what they did to like, just go reach people,
Mhm.
you know, and then I didn't promise them anything. Like I knew.
We actually had to sign a document saying that we did not
I
expect a
acknowledge.
job.
Yeah.
We, like literally,
Yeah.
and I think that was smart. It sounds crazy.
No,
It was
doesn't-
very smart
it is.
because the expectation, we had never done it before. And so
Because
it's
the
like,
excitement can get in the way
yes.
of that, right?
Yeah. And it's like, oh,
this
well, I
thing is-
moved out here. Where's my job?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
no, we can't do that.
Right.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they move out here with nothing promised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, my thought is as soon as I can, I'm bringing like Johnny said earlier, he was like doing administration. Yes, that was what he got. That's what he got brought on because that was the only job that I could hire somebody for.
Right.
So it was
you
between
had-
Johnny and this other person. And I'm like, I mean, I want to hang out with this guy.
Yeah.
And dude can preach. I mean, there's just so much that
Yeah.
he can
Ton of
do.
potential.
He's got great administration skills, right? So he definitely was qualified for the role, but he was overqualified for everything else.
Mhm.
And so it was like, what else? So once we were able to figure out
Gonna unleash
finances
your
and staff,
your full potential
Yeah.
at that
yeah,
point.
it was a no-brainer. So I mean, like,
Makes sense.
I think Steve raised his own support
I did.
first.
I did for a year
You raised it before Steve?
after. I
Okay,
think.
yeah. So I think Johnny was the first full-time person I brought on that moved out here with us, right?
I can't remember.
I think whatever. So Mike moved out here before we started the church, but I offered him a job. I
Okay.
needed
We
a family ministry
a
person.
kids person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to trust Johnny with
Nope.
kids ministry. So
Smart.
he would have done fine. It would have
You have
been
to be
great
wise about things.
administratively. Um, But so I hired.
Stop talking.
So I hired.
Everybody, shut up.
For the record, I'm in Johnny's community group. He's a wonderful father.
He is. He is.
So, yeah.
Only the
Oh yeah, exactly. He loves his kids a lot.
Yes.
So Mike was our first full-time hire,
Okay.
and he was doing family ministry stuff, so birth through high school, and then Mike is now our executive pastor, and I knew that would be his ultimate spot. At least I was hoping, and so he could do a lot more than family ministry. So he was our first full-time, and he moved out here. I mean, we had so many people move out here, not just from Charleston, but from different areas. Going,
Well, I
man,
think
we
goes
can make a
back
difference.
back to what's God blessing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine if you're trying to do it by yourself or even with like two other
Yeah.
couples or whatever. Like, just to have a built-in community right away that you all are already bonded and
Yeah.
know each other really well.
And we kind of cheated. Like some church plants, they're figuring it out day one, have no idea what they're doing.
Sure.
Our college ministry was set up in teardown. And so when we moved here and went into Mesa Middle School, we knew what we were doing. I looked at Wes and Steve and we were like, all right, so pipe and drape here, here, and here. Sounds great. Let's go.
So you just leapfrog all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we had to figure it out in a
100%.
lot of different ways. I ran sound for a long time.
Yeah.
No one wants that.
You do that.
No
It's not
one,
great.
no
it's not
one
your best.
wants that.
Not
But
your best.
we
Better than me doing it.
Well, I've seen Ernest up at the front, like when y'all had the office in downtown.
Yeah.
Ernest like, hey, can you? Oh, Johnny.
Yeah.
You're like, it's probably better than me, but
Yes. Yeah.
there's a chance that there's a blind guy around the corner that might be a little more qualified to do this.
Why would for sound? Maybe better with sound.
It's great. It's so cute at hearing.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mason Middle School, and so one of the things I'd written down that I wanted to sort of go through because I don't think people always know. But if you show up here, we're meeting in the K through third grade room.
Yeah.
Because there's like a gajillion kids in the main part of the church. And so as Brian and I walked around this morning, we're like, we didn't want to meet in the conference room because that doesn't feel like Front Range.
Sure. Yeah.
This does. This feels like I pick up Emma here every weekend.
My
Micah
daughter was
teaches
standing
it
right
exactly.
here yesterday. Yeah.
My
This is
son's
the
in the
most
back.
I've ever been in this room.
front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always stand out there and I'm like, what
Yeah.
happens? They keep her safe for an hour.
Yes.
Chris is out the window. Like,
Yeah.
Correct. Hello. But people
It's
come.
certain
It's easy to
talk,
come and see this beautiful new building, which only opened in November of 24.
Yeah.
Where has Front Range met? Because you were portable for a long time. And I say you because I only joined at Renaissance. So my part of the story is very small. Where have you been portable over the years?
And before you answer, also, if you can include why were you
Yeah.
portable for so long? Yeah. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so we were portable for 10 and a half years. And that's a long time to be portable. So especially
A lot of pipe and drape.
a lot of pipe and drape.
A
And
lot
especially,
of 6 a.m. call times.
yes. And then Colorado, our last place was a lot outdoors. So it was unique. So when we moved here, obviously we knew we needed a space, right? So the best space at that time was Douglas County High School. You're gonna have a portable spot. So I contacted them. Exactly. Everybody knows
auditorium.
it. Great auditorium, everything. And so I contacted them, and they said not a chance. We'll never let a church meet here again. And I was like, all right, clearly there was not a good experience.
Something bad happened.
So I was like,
Bad days.
they gave me a couple excuses, and I was able to be like, oh, those aren't really excuses. Like, we can do this instead. Finally,
Overcoming
they were like,
objections.
yes.
Yes.
Eventually, he was like, "We're
You're
just
in
never-"
sales, aren't you?
Yeah.
He is.
In some ways.
I know.
Yeah.
We're at the end. He was just like, "We're never going to let church meet here again." Okay, cool. So we're looking, and the thing about Castle Rock is there's always a church plant in a school. Always, at least since we've lived here.
100%. Yeah.
So there weren't a ton of options, and at that time, I don't know how it is now, but at that time, what was explained to me. Okay, so this isn't a knock on anything or any system. This was explained to me. If a school says yes to letting you rent their facility, they really don't get the funds. So what you pay for to rent that facility goes to Central, goes to Douglas County Schools. They hire somebody to facilitate it all, which I get. And then I don't know where else it goes, but the school gets a very small portion. So you're utilizing their rooms, you're utilizing their desks, you're utilizing their chairs, you utilize whatever it is.
Electricity.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
A lot of
And
wear and tear.
a lot of wear and tear on a school. And so pretty much every school was like, nope, not a chance. So we had two schools that were open. One was what's the school in the terrain?
Sage Canyon?
Yeah, Sage Canyon.
Okay.
So we went toward that first. We walked through and I'm like, I don't know what God's gonna do, but I think it might be bigger than this. That their gym type thing is very small.
Gotcha.
So and then I was like, I don't even know where to put kids. I mean, like
Yeah.
their building is awesome.
Just
We're
the
so
layout of it,
grateful
though.
though that
Yeah,
they were like
yeah.
open to it.
Yeah.
Because they
You know?
entertained it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And they were like, please come here. And we ended up not choosing because then our very next stop was Mesa. We walked to Mesa and we're like, yes,
That'll
it
do
was
it.
beautiful. It
Yeah.
was great.
It was a great
So
open space.
Yeah,
yes,
there,
for
right
sure.
when you walk in.
yes. So I just went to the assistant principal, but then assistant principal. Him and I became good friends. And I said, "What do y'all need?
Mm.
Like, if you guys aren't going to get the majority of this funds, what do you need?" So we just kind of made a wish list, and immediately we gave them a lot of money to do some things, and they were like, "We've been wanting to do these for a couple years now,
That's amazing.
but we can't do it
Yeah.
because of finances." So we just immediately went, "Let's bless them."
Take care of it.
And we blessed all the teachers all the time.
Mhm.
We fed meals. We'd give gift baskets like every month to
Mm.
just say thanks for letting us use your room. Like, this is their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're in school and in session, like this is their home. So like,
Oh,
how do we
yeah.
care for them, and how do we care for the facilities people? And
And we try
actually,
to honor them every Sunday and like,
yes,
let's make this place better than it was when we found it. Because no
yes.
teacher wants to walk in and go, why is that desk over there?
Yeah,
All that kind of
100%.
stuff.
We'd walk in and the floor wouldn't have been vacuumed, and we would vacuum it.
Yeah.
And we'd vacuum it after we got done. I'd send them edible arrangements to their entire staff. Which edible arrangements are expensive.
Yeah,
A
expensive.
big staff, and
Yeah.
so I'm spending hundreds of dollars just saying thank you,
Right.
just thank you.
Don't
for allowing
notice that
us.
stuff.
Yeah, just honor it.
It doesn't speak to here.
Yeah.
It speaks to here.
Yes,
Right? People can bless people's pocketbooks and
Yeah.
whatever. But man, when you speak to somebody's emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
oh look, kids looking inside.
It's
Hi.
daughter. This is my son.
They're going to camp. Hi.
We always said in this podcast, like we had somebody like we just saw their butt walking up steps on us. We're like, you're on the podcast. You never know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
You never know.
yeah. So that was Mesa, and Mesa was beautiful.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it was great. We I lived in the Meadows at that time, and so I would invite my neighbors. I would say, "Hey, man, we started a church. We'd love for you to come."
Mhm.
And once we finally got to a point where they were like open to it, they would say, well, "Where do you meet?" And I would say, "Well, Mesa Middle School." And they're like, "We don't know where that is." Yeah.
Founders.
It's in Founders.
Well, and it
They're
was
like,
kind of a ways
Yeah,
out
it's
there
in-
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
There's nothing around it.
Yeah.
So I tell them Founders, and then they'd be like, "Not a chance."
No way.
They're like, "We don't
Really?
cross the highway." And I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" They're like, "Maybe for Chick-fil-A," because there wasn't a
Right,
freaking
that was
Chick-fil-A at the time. And I'm like, "I guess you don't have to.
Yeah.
The movie theater's over here. You've got, obviously all the shopping. You've
yeah.
got a ton. Obviously all your schools are over here. So if you live over here, you got every school that you
King
can think
Supers
of,
was still over there where the Murdochs is, and so you'd cross to get there.
just to get there. Yep,
Yeah.
There wasn't the one that's on this.
Yeah,
Interesting that
exactly.
they
Exactly.
wouldn't have thought.
I was like, wait, what? And I kept hearing that over and over. We don't cross the highway. We don't cross the highway. And
Interesting.
so anytime you go to a place, especially if you're trying to reach
Yeah.
people, you're going, what are the barriers? What are the psychological barriers? What are the emotional barriers? What are the physical barriers? A psychological barrier was 25.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, well, what do we need to do about that? So a year in, Easter, our second Easter in, we launched right before Easter. Then the very next Easter, so we were just over a year old, we announced that we're going to launch a campus in the movie theater. So we did that. Then we moved. That was crazy expensive. So we moved that campus to Academy Charter. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
We did that for a while, and then right like 2017 ish. I went to. I felt like the Lord said, "Go ask Douglas County again," and I'm like, "Come on." I don't know about you
You
guys.
guys hear them last time?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't really like rejection. So I'm not like just looking for it. I get enough of it. And so I scheduled a meeting with the principal.
Yeah.
And so I went there and I just sat down and said, "Hey, I just want to ask, like, is there any chance you'd be open to us using this facility? We have these two spots. We'd love to bring them together as one. This is really the only place that makes sense."
We sent edible arrangements to your team.
Exactly. We had done nothing for him. Well, we were running a
Can't
food
be
pantry.
Chick-fil-A on Sunday, and it's a deal. And you're like, I can't not Jesus. I can't make
It'll
this.
be cold. We had started. They had a food pantry that their seniors had started, senior class had started, but it basically like went to the wayside. So we took it over and made it something pretty significant. So that was really the only thing that we had fed their teachers, but that was really it. Unbeknownst to me, his daughter had come to our youth group. her life was changed.
It's just phenomenal.
He was actually starting to watch online. So when I say, I don't know any of this.
No.
So I'm in the room and I say this, hey, is there any chance, blah, blah, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, Ernest, it would be an honor to partner with you.
Neither.
And I was like,
Not what you expected.
Wait, I shouldn't want to reject
I look,
like,
I'm looking for cameras. I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm being pumped right
Right.
now. Like, what's happening? And then he goes, hey, let's go walk around. So we started walking around. He's like, you could put your cafe here.
Like visioning.
Yeah.
He's got vision casting for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I go back to the office. I'm like, guys,
guess
we
what?
got our new spot. So then we made the transition there. That was beautiful until COVID. Then COVID got
so it
knocked
was
out.
July we moved in there, 2017.
Yep.
And then
Okay, so you had like almost
It's
3
like
years.
Almost 3 years, and it was especially toward the end of 18, 19, and early 20, it was explosive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
It really was. I mean,
holy
that
God,
time.
God's like
For sure.
bringing a lot of people.
we had fun days where they would have like homecoming and decorations in the lobby. We'd have
I
to,
do remember that.
hey, today's a superhero day. Or like today's
Or on the stage.
Under the Sea.
Right.
Yeah, Under the Sea was the best.
I love that. 'cause
Portable
this
church is
real.
very fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
we can't take all of this down, so
Yeah.
I guess we're leaving all of
Again,
it up.
though, we had come from a college ministry where you had to sit on the edge of a boxing ring and preach from there, and so it was just not new to us.
No.
It was like, all right, this is what we
Yep.
do.
Just deal with
Yeah.
it. And make
Yep.
it work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, very
Yeah, that's
different.
funny. So now, why did you guys stay portable for so long? Because I'm sure there's several people, I would imagine,
Yeah.
that were like, let's just get a building. Let's just do a building,
Oh man,
And-
from day one. I mean,
Yeah.
so eventually to get into this place, we used an organization that helps churches find the funding, and I remember meeting with them 2 months in, and the CEO was like, "So when are we going to do this?" And I was like, "Dude, we're 2 months in.
Yeah.
There's not a chance."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Ernest, you're not seeing this the right way, blah blah."
Mm.
My heart back then was, if you don't have the overhead, how much more can you give away? How much more can you bless people? What began to shift a little bit was not changing of that heartbeat. It was realizing we have no control over our space, zero control.
Yeah.
In 2016, something like that, New York began kicking churches out of schools because they didn't agree with certain policies or whatever. So I'm watching that and I'm going, okay. I mean, our politics here in Colorado aren't super far off from New York, California. So I always watch those states to go, what's going on there? Because how close
Might follow.
are we going to follow?
Yeah, those ripple effects begin to eventually
Yeah.
make its way to
100% to everywhere
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
If it continues. So
Yeah.
so we just began seeing that. So in 2018, we were like, let's raise some funds we call it an opportunity fund in case something comes available. So it's really the first time that people began to hear from me, like, we're open to a home.
Yeah.
Like, cause we don't want to get kicked out and not be able to like use it.
Sure.
And then, so we did that and man, the church responded. So it was like, okay, like, it's like Gideon throwing out the fleece and like, if it's wet, then it's the Lord. If it's dry and everything else is wet, then it's the Lord, that type of thing. It's like, and I think in the church world, sometimes you just throw stuff out and you see, like, do people respond? Like, because this is not us trying to be dictators of a organization.
Sure.
This is us trying to lead people toward the vision we believe God has set before us. But if it truly is the vision God has set before us, then the people are going to go, yeah, that's what we want too.
Right.
So we saw fruit from that fundraising, and then COVID hit. So the last year of that generosity initiative, our opportunity fund, was 2020.
Yeah. I remember that.
So we were already looking at land. We actually had decided we were signing on a piece of property, and then COVID hit literally the next week when they just shut everything down. I mean, obviously, COVID had been in existence for a little bit, but when they shut everything down, I remember, Waverly and I went to the last Nuggets game. Then the very next day, it was like, or 2 days, that was on a Monday. Wednesday, it was all the NBA games were being canceled and all that stuff. And so I just remember emailing our elders, like, we're putting the brakes on signing this contract. I don't know what this looks like. I don't even know if we'll have a church because we're getting kicked out of the school. So where do we meet? We have nothing, right? We had a little teeny ministry center that we could fit, squished in 100
people.
120,
Yeah.
maybe
one. I think we got 120 one time, and it was like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
Our church was way bigger than that at the time, so we would have had to do like 5-6 services type thing, and then you can't. There's no growth. There's
Yeah.
no parking.
No.
There's no
Oh,
kids
yeah,
ministry.
Yeah, no
nothing.
kids,
There's literally
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
We tried to rent the place next door
There's
for
no
kids
community because
ministry.
everybody's just passing two
Yeah.
ships in the night.
Exactly. So that's not our heartbeat. So we obviously couldn't do that. So we were done for a good bit. I mean, we did parking lots. We met at Hobby Lobby one time and stood up
I
on a
remember
trailer
all of that. Yeah.
with a storm coming, and I'm thinking I'm gonna die. I'm gonna get struck
Yeah.
by lightning as I'm
Yeah, a bunch of
speaking.
electrical equipment out in a storm. No
And not a
big
big deal,
right?
not a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody in their cars were safe.
Sure.
Everybody in their
everybody knows
cars
that.
and like it was
You on
just,
top of a metal trailer
This is-
holding a microphone.
This is the time no one was able to get out of their cars, and
Yeah.
so it was like,
Ernest is like, Johnny, you want to preach? He's like, "Good."
No, I'm
Yeah.
I had a baby right before that, so I was like, "You guys have fun.
Y'all go for it.
Enjoy that."
Yeah, I'll stay at my car.
Yeah.
So everybody's in their car and we're like, if you want to raise your right hand for worship, turn your right blinker on. Like it was the weirdest
my God.
time.
Yeah.
The weirdest time.
You were here.
No, but
I was there.
we were up in Littleton, and my in-laws, David and Bobby Ann, were attending here,
Mhm.
and Bobby Ann was so excited, and we were honestly like kind of jealous
Mhm.
because our church, loved our old church, they did not handle COVID well.
Mhm.
They weren't nimble,
Yeah.
and that's not a knock on
hard.
them.
It's
That's a
very
knock on
Churches
most.
Yeah.
Most
Yep.
businesses weren't
Yeah.
nimble.
Yeah.
So David and Bobby Ann were like, yeah, we're like meeting in a parking lot, and I was like, that's cool. Like 6 weeks later, our church started doing something similar to that,
Yeah.
but it just never really took hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd come back and she'd be like, oh my gosh. And, we like drove past Pastor Ernest and like kind of gave him a fist bump from afar. They felt like a stronger
Yeah.
connection because of how the church pivoted.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever realized, I don't think I knew the name of the church they were going to until that moment when they had the parking lot church.
Yeah.
And something about it just kind of stuck with me. It's so
Yeah.
special.
That's awesome.
I think honestly, like, people look at our story, they're like, man, 10 and a half years, that's a really long time. It was a blessing from God because we were, every church, in my opinion, had to basically become a church plant in their thinking
Yes.
after COVID.
Yep.
Like, now, how do we do this? How do we reach people?
That's
How do
right.
we, everything changed and everything was changing every 3 days.
Every day, I still
Right.
there's like PTSD sometimes.
I bet.
And we had it moving into the building. It like brought it up for me
Yeah.
because when we were moving in here, it was like every other day of like, oh well, this approval is coming through maybe, and all of that.
Maybe, yep.
It reminded me of that time in COVID. We would have like a Wednesday afternoon, like, all right, so this Sunday we're doing this, and then a word would come down from the government, and the following morning we'd be like, all right, emergency meeting. We got to change everything we decided.
A
And it
lot of
just was
emergency
like,
meetings.
it was wild, man.
But if we weren't portable at that point,
Yeah.
and understanding the church plant mindset,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of churches
It's hard to
respond
say
to the
what
exact same.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just if you had your own building and all that,
had your own building.
Yeah.
it just looked different. Now we also it could have looked better. You just never know.
Yeah.
So I mean. At the beginning, it was because I didn't want any overhead because I wanted to give away money. We've, in 11 years, we've given away 1.7 million. That's a lot of money we could have put toward a building.
100%.
But that's just not. It's never been who we've been. And so it was when I started seeing New York kicking churches out that I'm like, we probably need something secure. And then COVID just was like, duh.
Definitely.
Yeah, like because we were out for almost 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we found Renaissance, and Renaissance is a charter school, so they had different rules than the public school system did. And they needed the money, and we needed a place.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
It was different. It was like I was telling somebody the other day. It's like when your parents or your grandparents tell you like, oh, I walked uphill 2 miles both ways to go to school.
Yeah.
That type of thing in the snow. That's what Renaissance felt.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a quarter mile from the parking lot to the auditorium.
Right.
It could snow 8 inches, and we're still having church. We did church online. We didn't do church in person maybe
A few times.
5 times ever.
Because
Something
of
like
weather.
because of weather.
Yeah.
Obviously COVID
Yeah.
changed that. But
That was the first time I ever attended fundraisers at Renaissance.
The Renaissance.
Yeah.
And other than the walk from the parking lot, I was like, this is a cool setup.
cool.
I
Yeah,
love
actually,
the indoor-outdoor
Yeah.
because I did, that felt very Colorado to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to restaurants and right, we get so excited in the summer because you can sit outside and not
Yep.
worry about getting snowed on.
Yep.
But it was almost like, oh, I got like a patio option for church.
Yep.
Did I ever use it? Maybe once or twice. But you'd see people that as soon as y'all put those chairs out there,
Oh, they're dying.
they're like, oh, they were waiting.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a COVID thing. I mean, it was us adjusting to when we found Renaissance. It was like, I forgot what it was. It was like you could have 20% of whatever
Yeah.
the room capacity.
Yes.
or
Yeah.
something.
And the
And it was
social
like 6
distancing with the
feet. Yep.
chairs and
Yep.
all of it. Yeah.
So we're like, well,
Everybody's sitting on one rug.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. we're like, okay, well, let's provide an outdoor option. So we had a very generous family in our church that said, we'll give the money for the LED screen, and we created an outdoor thing. And I mean, for a while there, I feel like that was bigger, or at least close, as it wasn't. So I'm inside preaching, and I'm like,
so everybody's trying to figure out, like, am I?
He's got 12 people in front. I got like 50 outside.
I feel like I'm like, what are we doing here?
Everybody's outside.
Yes,
Just put the LED inside.
There was 1 or 2 weekends I'm like, I think I was just going to preach out from outside.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't do that. So I mean, you know, you never dream of being portable for 10 and a half years.
Yeah.
And yet our heart was bless.
Mm-hmm.
So don't have as much overhead as as maybe you might have had early in the stage.
Yeah.
But then once it became pretty clear that by being portable, we don't have options if we're kicked out.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
That just made sense we have to pivot now.
Well, it's so fascinating just to see from the very first stories that you guys share, just personally about yourselves, you just see God moving in his hand in every little step of the way. And it's just,
thanks for that.
Absolutely incredible, to just all these little pieces that at the time you have no idea what's happening, but he's just building and building and building and like creating
and building a foundation.
Yeah.
Because each subsequent challenge probably wouldn't have been achievable if you hadn't had the base that your individual and then combined stories had, and your families and spouse, all that. But I mean, you couldn't have tackled COVID if you hadn't been through what your personal stories were. And I love the part you said, Jonny, about we not only were planning a church, but like what you did at Seacoast was kind of like pre-church planning 101.
Yeah.
So we got here and you're like, oh, it's just a different, it's drier.
Yeah.
We're at altitude, there's no beach. But otherwise you were kind of doing what you were doing, you're just doing it in a different place.
Yeah.
There's a familiarity to that. That I can only imagine what that must have felt like.
There's a question that's burning on my mind that from the very beginning when you talked about your story of when you went and they said, we're so glad you're here. Yeah. I don't remember exactly. I'm going to butcher it. But now you're the community pastor here. You know what I mean? How much does that 20-second moment, impact what you do now? Like
it's everything. I mean, it is the driving force for me. So like I would say the two things that drive me in ministry are Jesus is real and it really matters and it should like actually change our lives, and people matter and we need to care for one another and love one another. And so to me, like, it can be an Anglican church, a Catholic church, a non-denominational church. I think that Jesus needs to be real in whatever experience you're having people come to. And it needs to be compelling in a way that like people want to come back. And so real community, like people who actually care for one another, who are genuinely happy when you see one another. And then just like having fun. I mean, yesterday at Father's Day, we had root beer floats and leather keychains and all kinds of stuff. And like, that's always been who we are because there's no reason church needs to be bored.
Sure.
And so we try to keep a fun aspect that's compelling and community that's compelling.
Not fun for the sake of fun.
Right.
Everything's intentional, right?
Yes,
Purposeful.
it is. It is. But it's real life, right?
Yeah.
And we have all this stuff so that people will stick around and build community.
Yes. Yeah. And so, like shooting water balloons yesterday with my kids, there's other kids and parents and we're chatting and all that stuff. And so just creating those kinds of experiences that make people want to come back, but not selling a show. It's real. You're going to go have fun in the mountains. Why can't you have fun at church?
Yeah.
Like you've got your friends that you hang out with. What if you like talk about the Bible and Jesus and following him together? Like that's a small group. That's a community group.
Right.
And then the hey, Jesus is real and he's a part of our services and we're going to sing to him about him and actually do something with what we're hearing in the message. Like it's everything for me. It just, that story of me getting saved at 15 and everything changing is because it's real. And I can't put up with fake. Like I just can't. And so I get like agitated when faith for someone is not real and it's just a show or it's just a thing we do when we feel like it.
100%.
Because to me, it's just so real. Jesus died on the cross. He rose 3 days later. He's coming back.
Yeah.
He has something for us to do. He wants to be with us and change us. And it matters to me.
I think what's so fascinating about your story too is that one person had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
That impact that person had.
Yep.
In the lives of a ton of unknowns in Castle Rock, known people. You know what I mean? If she probably said that to, or he, I don't know who it was, she or he said to many people, but like look what God did with that little
Yep.
seed,
Yep.
you know, from that one person, you know, and now it's grown and it's had this major impact on you, but then now so many other people. And I have to say, you do a phenomenal job.
Oh, thank you.
And I think one of the things that I really notice and appreciate about what you do is it's not overdone. You know what I mean? Like it's simple, it's still genuine, it's done well. You know what I mean? But
It's approachable.
it's not extravagant to like, it's like, okay, like that was like unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what I love about that's like you said, the water balloons. It's a simple slingshot with these made up hoops and a truck out in the, you know what I mean? Like, like
It's and sometimes,
but by the way, and then Mike caught everybody's attention because you could win a car, and he goes, and I mean that. And so I was like, all right. So then I said, what was that thing Mike mentioned about that? And they said, oh, it was the kids all
It's a
got
Hot
cars.
Wheels
I was
car.
like, it's fantastic.
Look at
He
win a
spoke
car.
truth.
Yeah.
Here's the crazy part: the people that had those impacts on your lives, if they or you had known what it was leading to, it would have probably not led to this. Because you can't wrap your head around that at that point. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, the
100%.
fact that you were like, I want to talk about tithing. That's a part of where the growth came from, because otherwise it's like you fast forwarded to something that you frankly probably weren't emotionally ready that this is going to be here. I mean, they definitely weren't ready for the podcast. Big deal.
No, not at all.
All 8 followers.
You just try to do the next right thing, right? And just what's God got in front of you right now, do that, and then just let him figure out the rest.
Frozen?
I just did, yes.
Man,
I'm so glad
I love that.
Frozen 2. Frozen 2. The next, no, not that one. That's 1. Frozen 2.
Come on, man.
Come on.
We'll have a guys' party. We'll just watch.
Yeah,
Frozen 2.
exactly.
Please don't sing again.
There's Aaron's got so much talent. I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. I wanted to ask a little bit about, I've witnessed the explosive growth since the building's here. And I think, again, people are like, all right, there's a building, like now they're legit.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is obviously not true, but everybody finds it in their own place.
Yes.
How have you balanced what's been explosive growth since the doors opened in November? Which I think when you said November, everybody was like, yeah, right.
September. But yes.
Was it? Was it September? Oh my God, that's
15th,
right.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, you did.
Grand opening was in October. We opened
Crazy.
before.
Yeah, we do a really good job on our research before we start
Yep,
this.
we try not to do it. It keeps it authentic.
Yes.
That's right.
With all of
I
that,
like to make things up.
how have you stayed grounded to help people build community, discover purpose, and grow in their faith, while it's like all of a sudden this brand new big building is like, we're full, close to. How do you balance those things?
For me, it starts with prayer. And like one of my personal prayers right now is that, I mean, it's constant thing that I pray for with I pray for a lot of things for our church, but one of the things I pray for is God help connected people get disconnected people connected. Like that's every day, God help connected people get disconnected people connected. Because
That should be a t-shirt.
because growth is like,
I'm ready for a t-shirt.
I think,
I don't know.
I think that
I'd wear it.
I think most pastors would love to see growth. I mean, you don't get into the ministry to not reach people, right?
Yeah.
However,
It's easy
there are
to
unique
say.
challenges with growth that, some people don't want it. And some people don't feel like they have the same connection with me, or the same connection with Jonny, or whoever, right?
And
Like,
you're not gonna. It's a reality of what.
it's the reality
Yeah.
of life as a whole. But the goal is build community, discover purpose, and grow in your faith in Jesus. And so I would say that like our faith component, like the growing in the faith with Jesus, I think has exponentially grown since we've gotten in here. I think our preaching is better since we've gotten in here. I think our opportunities for growth have increased. Our resources we've given to people have increased. I think a lot of things have grown in that area. The discover your purpose. It's constantly just trying to draw people to take next steps and go. Yesterday I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he came. And he was like, dude, so I met one of your ushers, Jerry. And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I said, he was created for being a greeter, like created for being a greeter. And that sounds so weird, like, but it's the woman that changed his life, right? It's a parking lot guy that got me to go, okay, maybe this is a okay place.
That's right.
Because he's happy and whatever. Like,
okay.
He's safe. It's like that type of thing of like, there's truly purpose in being a part of and
That's right.
contributing to How do we let people be a part of that? How do we help people be a part of that? How do we encourage that and all that stuff? So we've grown. I mean, at least in our serving and people like I think I think as we've gotten bigger, the beauty is you can kind of hone in on a craft a little bit more. Whereas before we were all generalists, like, and not just of staff, but like everybody was.
Everybody was set up.
You've done
Everybody's-
everything in this church.
Yeah,
everything.
You won't let me preach, but other than that,
Yeah.
Tomorrow, let's
Fine.
go.
Okay.
Pull my arm.
Tomorrow, Tuesday.
You can preach to anybody you want in that room on a Tuesday.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're right.
You've done
everything.
Yeah. And that was what was needed at certain times in the church. So we were generalists. Now people can become more specialists, which I think allows you to hone in on who did God create you to be.
Yeah.
You know, like we're having conversations with you about hospitality because this is like who you were created to be. Like unbelievable.
Hospitality.
You're changing. You're changing things that we're doing now. You know, so because you're specialized. Right. And we're now able to do those types of things. And then the build community, again, it just goes back to how do we get connected people, helping disconnected people get connected. It's all of our jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like I had a conversation with a lady and she was like, I just don't feel like I'm as connected, you know, with you, with, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I said, can I speak into this? And she's like, yeah, sure. I was like, maybe God has you here to help other people who aren't connected at all actually get connected. And she was like, huh, okay, what would that look like? And so we're just having a conversation and it's like, oh, so then she comes up to me yesterday and she's like, hey, I want to have a conversation with you about such and such. Can we have that? And it's all about getting disconnected people and connected. And I'm like, this is a lady 6 months ago that was complaining about it.
Yeah.
Not voicing her concern about it.
Yeah.
And me just going, but it's your job.
Yeah.
It's not just my job to help you stay connected. It's
And
yours.
you can't only be connected to me.
Right, exactly.
Feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
Because if she didn't share that, she didn't feel comfortable sharing that, courage, whatever you want to call it, maybe the alternative would have been
She's gone.
leaves.
She quietly
Didn't feel connected there. I don't matter to the pastor. I feel comfortable talking to him. Not going to bring up my concerns. She'll leave and go somewhere else.
Exactly.
There's so much beauty in the fact that she feels even comfortable sharing and bringing that forward. That doesn't mean in the moment, right? Hospitality 101 doesn't mean in the moment it doesn't sting a little.
Yeah.
When somebody criticizes
of course.
this or that, and you're like, you know, much thought I put into this, much thought I put into where we do, right? Johnny and I have talked about, we've talked about the coffee station. And Johnny was like, all right, he goes, I trust you. He's like, what do you think we should do here? And I said, but it's like, you have to also want to welcome them.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to put ourselves in.
A beautiful picture of all of this was yesterday. I was talking with a couple. They just had a baby. It was the first time I've seen them since they had their baby. And I said, hey, how you feeling? And she's like, great. She's like, there's been some challenges, but it's very different than last time. And I said, why? And she goes, the biggest difference is we now have community. And I'm like,
That's it.
That's
There you
it.
go.
Like she can go through whatever as long as she has community, knowing that she's cared for, that her other kids cared for, that her husband's cared for, that she's good. And she goes, we never had this community before. So thank you. And I wasn't soliciting. She wasn't even coming up to say that. She just wanted to introduce me to the baby and we're just having this. And then she's like, thank you for what you guys are building here because it's changed our lives. And I'm like, this is a person that very easily could have walked away when we got into this building. Because I felt like they were connected, but they've gotten even more connected since that time. And they would say it's what's made the difference and where they're at in their stage of life right now.
That makes sense.
I've told people in the new building, the hardest part was I thought people left the church. How did they leave the church? I said the congregation's bigger. And then I realized everyone's hanging out in different spots. So you have to figure out where your friends are. Like, we spend time together. I'm like, hey, where's Brian at? Or my buddy, the Carlsons. And I don't know who's this person. But you do kind of have that dynamic.
Very much so.
Yeah, we just love you guys so much.
Very much
Really appreciate you.
We appreciate you guys. I mean, y'all have been instrumental in this church. I mean, you guys, I remember when you came in for the first time, I met you at Douglas County, and I mean, obviously meeting you at the men's retreat and, your family comes from great stock. But the fact that like you guys serve the church the way that you do and serve the community the way that you do, I mean, this is why we do what we do because it allows us to meet a family that had hurt and could have very easily stepped away from church as a whole, and try to help them know this is a safe place. I think I even told you like you don't ever have to serve. Like, we just want you to like find healing, find rest, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And then you very quickly started
And
serving.
Jonny was like, "Could you serve over here?"
I didn't say it.
You started with rest, so I'm gonna greet people.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take a nap.
You'll do that while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like our desire is to like be there for the stage that people are in, whatever that looks like, care for them the best way we possibly can,
Yeah.
and then help them move closer to the Lord and what God wants out of their lives. So the fact that, I mean, even the fact that you guys are doing this and then asking us to be a part, it's an honor.
Yeah.
So
Thanks. And I have to say too, I mean, I've told you so many times, but like Front Range has literally impacted our family like no other church. And we're just so grateful. We've been through a lot, you know, health wise, marriage wise, kids wise. Yeah. I mean,
all the things of life.
I can name all the things of
real
life. And something we just never found. I tell everybody, I'm like, hey, you should come to Front Range because it's the real deal. It's genuine. They're not trying to be something they're not. And our church is, they're not going to be the most flashy, the most, you know, anything like that. They are who they are and they're okay with that, you know, and all the staff is like that.
You're gonna have the executive pastor in shorts,
Yes, exactly.
high socks for
That was
Father's
something.
Day.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
something
Yesterday.
It was something.
Yeah, that was a little scary, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
now we all have
Walked up on stage. I was like, "My
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Kind of. Yeah.
but just so grateful
Thank you.
for both of you, you
Yeah.
know, and what you do. There's so much that you know, we've worked in a church and I can't even imagine the amount of heaviness and the weight that's on your shoulders and the things that you do that nobody sees. And I only understand a piece of it, you know, but I'm so like, I kind of go back to what you said. Like if you didn't come out here and start this church, I don't know where my family would be, you know, and on a personal note, I'm going to probably tear up a little bit, but that's real, you know? And so just love you guys.
Yeah.
They're grateful.
And we're grateful to be a part of it, man.
Yeah.
I love your genuineness for stuff because, you know, we obviously spent time together at the Connecting Over Coffee events, but as we've talked about many times on our podcast, we're not like best friends.
Right.
But from the moment that I wanted to do this, it was always Brian Cowdery. And people were like, why? I was like, I don't know. There's something like trustworthy about
He's
him.
cool. Why not?
Got a really great note.
And I and I
Talk about Pinocchio.
but it doesn't scare me. Talking to people doesn't scare me. And it took me 3 months to work up the courage to ask him to do this.
Yeah.
And God was like, there's a reason why you're going to wait, because when you ask, your head's going to spin with how fast he says yes.
Wow.
And that's what it was. So here's the cool part. We have no idea this was going to happen, but
Yeah.
we're going to end up filming a second episode so that we don't overwhelm your screen and
That's
overwhelm
right.
these men's lives.
Yeah.
Because Jonny has a doctor's appointment, and Ernest has to go say goodbye to his kids who
Me
are
too.
doing a big thing. So does Brian. So we're going to put pause for now. Look for episode 2, which will be episode 8 or 9 or 10. We're not sure,
It's gonna be 7
but there'll be a second part to
part
this.
2.
But
We
thanks
don't
for
know
being.
what it is.
We have no idea. But thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Thanks for just being your
you.
real selves, because we know you well enough to know that who we just talked to today is exactly who you are.
Yeah.
We're excited for more of the Castle Rock community to get to know you. So on behalf of both of us, we really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
guys. Appreciate y'all.
See you guys next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That brings us to the end of another episode and a great conversation.
We hope you enjoyed getting to learn more about our community and the people of our town.
If you want to become a Castle Rock insider, all you have to do is like that video that you just watched and go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We're also on all the social media channels. You can find us there or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time inside Castle Rock.